Says. It's time for Georgio's celebrity check. Tune in now, folks, we need to talk about this. Tune in now, folks, we need to talk about this. Tune in now, folks, we need to talk about this. Georgio Says. It's time for Georgio's celebrity check. Tune in now, folks, we need to talk about this. Georgio Says. It's time for Georgio's celebrity check.
All right, everyone. Happy Monday to all of you. If you are, well, specifically in the DMV area, then you woke up to a bunch of snow. Yes. I am not leaving the house for sure at this point, but I am so happy to be back. It is Monday. It's January 6th. We are finally back to recap a new episode of Real Housewives. Real Housewives of Potomac aired last night. If you guys didn't catch it, I am going to be recapping last night's episode for you guys. But that's not all, because I'm also going to be diving into some other angles that I want to discuss regarding the Blake Lively, Justin Baldoni of it all of that, and a little bit of tea along the way. So let's jump right on in.
We need to talk about this. Every rumor, every twist on the Georgio Says podcast. We need to talk about. So hit that play, stay in the know. Georgio's here to steal the show on the Georgio Says podcast. We need to talk about this.
All right, let's get into it. I am very excited. Although I have not really been thrilled with how Potomac has been going in terms of storylines or lack of storylines thereof, I am obviously going to be highlighting mostly what stood out during this episode, which was the Mia of it all. If you've been watching Potomac and you've been following, you know just how messy and chaotic Mia has been on the show this season in regards to her storyline, okay, with her kids, throwing them under the bus. And, you know, it's wild, because at this point you don't really know what to believe from Mia. And I believe the cast is in the same space, right? I don't think they all believe everything that she says at this given point. And watching last night's episode, it became very clear that there's not really a sense of, and again, this is just based on my perception of the show, I don't see a lot of her like prioritizing or having any urgency regarding her kids. It seems like she has more urgency when it comes to bashing Gordon and being, you know, all up Ink's, you know, or lifting Link ink up on an apple crate, as Karen would say. I mean, we know now that they're not together. Something, you know, obviously made them have to break up. But word on the street is that this wasn't the first time. There was another time before this, before, you know, I guess they broke up, but that allegedly Mia was begging Ink to take her back. But I guess now it is final, and it seems that she's ready to get back into trying to co-parent or coexist with Gordon. And so, yeah. But in regards to the show, we pick up where she's at, in the sense that, like, she's just found out that, you know, her kids are not where she left them before she came to Panama, and that Gordon has gone to Jacqueline's house where the kids were. Because I guess, like I said the last time, uh, it sounded like they just found some random person that they knew that would just sit at Jacqueline's house and watch Jacqueline's kids and Mia's kids, and it was like, whatever. Again, who cares? I want to go to Panama. Nonetheless, she does find out that Gordon has taken the kids and taken them to this other nanny, who we then find out is like a mother to Mia. So it's not that she just knows her because it was her nanny. This woman was a big, big imprint in her life as well as the kids. So it makes a little bit more sense if that is true. Because again, I kind of question some of the validity around this, or at least I think I'm trying to hope that perhaps this is not all true, because I don't want to think that Mia would be so nonchalant in the sense of like not wanting to leave Panama immediately when that became news to her. Because like for me, I put myself in a position, I don't have children, but even with like our dogs, like when we're traveling, like if anything went awry or something became, I don't know, some confusion came about, I would leave immediately, and that's for our fur babies. But like actual children, I think that's a non-negotiable, but not for Mia. Nonetheless, Jacqueline makes her rounds of phone calls because, again, Jacqueline's really trying to prove to Mia on camera how good of a friend she is and how much she actually deserves to have a flute on this cast. She really wants to be full-time so badly. So she's going to sit here and do all the legwork for Mia because Mia just can't. She's having a panic attack because this is possibly going to ruin her trip, and she won't get camera time if she has to leave, all because the kids aren't where they're supposed to be because Gordon is having a moment. Okay, well, I guess Gordon, then we find out, is also away. So maybe, again, he felt like, well, if I'm going to be away, I don't want these kids to be with someone that they don't really know that well, or I don't feel comfortable leaving them with. So I'm going to bring them to someone I am comfortable with. That's the only thing I can take from that situation, if, again, that's what actually went down. But, Jacqueline gets a hold of, I guess it's the nanny in question's, is it the daughter or the niece? I'm not sure. They didn't even feel like they wanted to be on the phone, to be honest. It sounded like they were being bombarded with phone calls, and finally someone picked up and was like, what is it? And then finally they were like, yes, the kids are with said nanny. Yes. Okay. Stop calling me. And then that's when, immediately, because again, I didn't see any tears come out of Mia's eyes at all. So it's just like a bunch of like hysterics that I guess are supposed to look like she's really concerned. But then when she finds out that not because she spoke to the kids or the actual nanny, she spoke to some family member that just said, yeah. So that's fine. That's fine enough, right? I don't have to leave, right? I don't have to leave, right? I can stay. They're good, right? I mean, yeah, well, actually, Gordon's the one that actually like dropped them off so he could go on some vacation. So it's, let's point the finger at Gordon now. But yeah, no real confirmation, at least on camera. We didn't see her actually speak to her kids. So it was good enough for her. So she just needed a tequila shot, honey, so she could just get right back into the mix. And then she carried on with the day. But not before Jacqueline reminds her that she's a better friend to her than any of these other women on the cast. Meaning, like, she's reminding her, like, you need to help me get this flute. Please, 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 please. I need something going on in my life that's going to validate my insecurities. Just like you, Mia. No. So then we get to the ladies going out for a day excursion of shopping, and Ashley, Mia, and Stacy all go into a store, and Mia is explaining what's going on, and Ashley just doesn't have a good reaction, rightfully so, because again, Ashley's also a mom. she, say what you want about her, but like, I just don't see how that would be something that Ashley was. So Ashley clearly is in shock that Mia is even still here. Like, what are you doing here? How are you just shopping? Like, because in my mind too, it's like, okay, fine. Let's say that she did confirm with the nanny. We didn't see that, but she did confirm with the nanny that the kids are fine. They're doing great. But it would still linger with me, I guess, that they probably are a bit confused, or because it's already a confusing situation for them, I would assume. So like, I would just feel bad. So I would just want to be with them just because I would feel bad that they've been kind of moved around, and that just probably feels like kind of scary, I would imagine, if your kids and your parents, or neither one of them is around, you're just at some stranger's house. Well, not a stranger's house. I mean, I'm sure the kids are familiar with Jacqueline's house at this point, but it just, I don't know. The situation to constantly be left on your own, for people like to go on vacation or film a show and not care about the reality of what that does is really astounding. So she carries on. Ashley has this reaction. And obviously, like, I agree with Ashley. Like, I don't think I would want to stand there and continue, like, quote unquote, supporting someone who's coming off like, they've had the worst morning ever, but yet they're not doing anything about it really. They just want it to be a moment of like, oh, I didn't know where my kids were, and then blame Gordon like she always does. But the interesting thing too is that no one else at this point knows what happened except for Ashley and everyone that was in that store. So the whole day goes on, and she's just carrying on like everything's good. The kids are good. They're great. They are swimming. So, good for her. She settled what was going on there, but at the same time, like, you're not really being honest about it. Like, you're sitting there and you're enjoying yourself, because I think in the back of her mind, she knows that if she would have said anything, most of the women at that table would have had a very similar reaction that, to what Ashley had, which was like, I don't get it. I don't get it. Like, how are you not on a flight back? It's wild. It's wild. But, it's Mia, and like, you either accept it or not. And listen, I get it. Mia puts a lot out there, and that's great for entertainment purposes. But it's weird when you look at it from the angle of like this season in particular. It's not her just being messy within the group. She's literally, bringing her kids into it, calling Giselle's daughters, whores, having Giselle having to go to the network and say, please cut that out. I'm not doing that to my daughters. Like, and then Mia agrees because she knows that it'll give her the backlash. It doesn't look good. And also, we've seen on camera that it just seems like very like wishy-washy, and all the focus is around breaking Gordon down and building up this relationship that she has with Ink. And I don't know. I don't know if it's worth all of this either. Like, I don't know if throwing your kids under the bus and throwing Gordon under the bus and doing all the antics just to get the screen time and the storyline is worth what it's going to cause in terms of consequences, in my opinion. But the day's not over. And again, this is day 2 in Panama. So there's still this, like, to me, there's still this unresolved tension between some of the ladies. Like, I think it was clear Giselle was waiting for the right moment again to bring up the issue around how Mia spoke about her daughters, because I think she really wanted to drive the point home, because clearly you can tell there was issues around this conversation that was cut out, because when you see this episode, you can tell by the way they're speaking about it that it wasn't just what we saw, even though that was horrible in and of itself. There was additional things said. So that is disgusting, because now you're not only bringing your children into this, you are talking about someone else's children on camera, and it's just not, that's, for me, that's not what I want to see in Housewives. Like, I don't see where there's room for kids to be brought into it at any cost? Like, what is going is if you have zero going on and all you can do is pull from your kids to have a storyline, then maybe you should sit this one out. Go live some life. I don't know. But it seems like Mia's living very fast and she's willing to share it all. But how much of it is actually true? How much of it is actually true? Like, I don't know. I don't know if I buy this whole kids getting dropped off at this nanny. For all I know, the kids were already at that nanny's house, and then she drummed this whole little thing up with Jacqueline to just have a bit of a little like storyline. Maybe that would better explain why she didn't jump on a flight to go back home. I don't know. It's hard to believe anything she says, really. Sounds like she would say whatever sometimes just to, get a reaction or start mess or whatever have you. And if that's not all, we then find out that apparently Ink is just Community D. He is just Community D's, basically another Lunchable that Jacqueline and Mia have experienced. And I say experienced and not indulged in is because apparently from Mia's POV, she says that a long time ago, there was a time where Ink did watch Mia and Jacqueline shower together, but nothing else happened. So that's why, again, it's very weird. The Jacqueline and Mia friendship is very weird. It feels like, sometimes it feels like Mia has Jacqueline around because it makes her feel better about herself. And as long as Jacqueline's not meeting Mia where she is in terms of how she lives or the caliber of guy that she's dating or better, then she's fine. As long as she doesn't rock the boat and she kisses the ring, which we're seeing Jacqueline go out of her way to do this season. She really wants in on this group, and sometimes she overshares and not in an entertaining way. It's almost like you can tell the rest of the group is kind of like, okay, anyways, like next subject, like enough of this, because it always ends up going into some weird, like, sexual discussion that no one really asked for, right? Like you guys don't need to divulge all that. But for some reason, to them, that's them living their life transparently on camera when it's not. You thought about saying those things before you said them on camera. No one would just say that willingly without, being worried about what people would then assume after that. What do I know? All I know is that when we get to this dinner, you guys, it is very clear that not only the cast, but the editors are starting to kind of turn things around on Mia a little bit, because we do see that there's this moment where, first of all, I think just watching this Panama trip, I think Wendy did do an excellent job for hosting this trip. I think she did some really cool things with them and she set it up nicely. She also played the game, right? She knew that there needed to be some things that needed to pop off, be said, liberation, yada, yada. But ultimately, there needed to be some conversations had. And it seems like at this dinner, we're seeing that most of these women are really kind of questioning the choices that Mia is making in her life at that moment. Because Wendy made a very good point, which was, you're making a lot of choices very quickly, but are you sure they're the best choices for all parties involved? Again, she's alluding to the children without actually saying it, but that is it. You're making a lot of choices very quickly, you're making a lot of moves very quickly, and you're not considering how that's impacting everyone involved, because it's not just Mia that's involved. Even though in Mia's head, this is about Mia, this is about her happiness, and she's allowed to be happy. Two different things, right? But it doesn't help when you have a friend like Jacqueline, who's not really your friend, because a real friend would check that, right? They would say, look, I don't think that we should stay. I think we should go and be with the kids. Let's do something with them. That's probably really scary for them to have to be picked up randomly and then dropped off and whatnot. So let's just go home. Or they would say, Mia, maybe let's back off on bringing ink around the kids all the time and trying to do this like co-parenting, co-coupling, whatever you're trying to do here, all the while like also nonchalantly discussing how you're leaving the kid's father to the kids on camera, like not even prepping them for anything or just leaving them off camera to process that information, not have them in front of a bunch of other strangers in their face with cameras pointing at them while you tell them this horrific news for the first time. There's a laundry list of things I could go on and on about in regards to my negative views on how Mia is operating this season, but I would like to also hold space and empathy for her because, again, I do believe this is solely based on the fact that she's not healed. I think she's got a lot of healing to do that she's not maybe willing to do because that is not always the best journey, let's be honest. Anyone out there that has had to do anything like work on themselves, healing, traumas, all of that, it's not fun, but it's necessary in order to be a better version of yourself. And I don't think that she's doing anything to try to be a better version of herself. I think she's trying to figure out how to maintain a lifestyle that she somehow seems to think validates her existence. So if a guy's going to be able to give that to her, great. She's going to lean that way. And whoever's with her, kids included, y'all are just going to have to come along for the ride and just figure it out. You know, that's the energy in which I feel is coming from her, at least this season. Because again, I'm not going to judge her completely as a mom. I don't know her outside of the show. So I'm referring only to everything that's happening on this show, just so I'm clear, because I don't know her as a mom. Again, she probably is a fantastic mom, but everyone has their moments. Everyone goes through situations and doesn't always make the best decision. So I'm just going to hold space again to have empathy and try to hope that things kind of turn themselves around and she starts to prioritize things differently. Because this isn't a good look. And I hope that her watching the episodes back maybe will reflect that. Am I hoping for too much here? I don't know. But, you know, I don't know. It seems that, you know, also at the dinner, Giselle wanted to really kind of lay the law down again around this conversation with Mia saying those things about her daughters. And yes, we find out that Mia did apologize to Giselle off camera. And, you know, of course, Mia tries to spin it because, again, yes, if I were in Giselle's shoes, yeah, thanks for apologizing to me, but you said all that mess on camera, so I need the apology on camera as well. Like, that's just fair, right? Like, it doesn't matter if you I mean, it does, right? In some sense, it probably does matter that she apologized, but does it matter as much when the person said those awful things about your children, but then apologizes off camera so we never see that closure on it, or the accountability or the apology rather from their end? It's just off camera conveniently, Mia. No, I would do the same thing Giselle's doing, is push back and bring it up again because like, yeah, no, you need to be accountable and everyone here also has a bone to pick with you, you know? And this is where when Jacqueline jumps in, that, you know, look, there's just other layers to this, and it's not, you know, there's a lot going on for me. And it's like, no, 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 no. And this is why you see this visceral reaction literally from everyone at the table. They're like, no, we're sick of hearing this. Like, there's always some rhyme or reason why Mia gets to act like a messy person and then turn around and say, okay, you're right. I know I shouldn't have said it. Well, you already did. And, you know, most times when you're saying things like that, it just doesn't, it's not going to unstick. So, you know, the damage in my mind is done when you say certain things, and she can't take it back, you know? Luckily, they cut that one part out where she called them whores, but outside of that, I mean, you pretty much alluded to that outside of just calling them that. So, I mean, yeah, I'd be pretty pissed too. We're not getting, you know, any more of the picking at Karen, thankfully, because again, I'm growing tired of this, like, constantly picking at the same thing, knowing that we're not going to get any updates. So thankfully we didn't have much of that. But outside of that, there really wasn't much that happened in the episode. It just was a lot of the Mia drama, the ladies basically sticking it to her and voicing their concerns and opinions. And yes, I want to bring up, hi, Danny Gossip Girl. Yes, did you see the article that Essence published about Mia being the problem of Potomac today? Yes, I quickly glanced at that, and yes, it's clear. I don't think you need to. I don't think I need to prove a case here. It's not like I'm explaining all this in hopes that you guys will also see the problematic behavior in what I'm seeing. It's not that. I think it's just insane. It's insane that this is the route that she's taking. And I don't think we've ever really seen anyone take that approach before. So, the reunion should be interesting. I know they're going to be filming that in a week or two, somewhere around there. So, we'll see what happens, because the reunion, we're going to get a lot of other updates too, because obviously we know that as of the new year or the holiday, Mia and Gordon, they I don't think they're back together. I think her post was more in line about her focus is going to be on co-parenting better. And if that is the case, then bravo to her for making that decision. So I'm sure we'll get some other updates at the reunion when they film it. But yeah, I think it's going to be interesting reunion, because I think things have also shifted this season with certain cast members not being there. And, you know, although there's elements of Stacey that I do like for the show, there's this other essence to her that I find to be not authentic at all, and very much it's so I'm such like I'm in the middle with Stacey, because like, she is funny. Like, I get it. She's good on camera. I understand it. I No issues. Like, I think it's great. I think where she loses me is when she takes things a little too far, in my opinion, when certain things are just not believable. So, like, I don't believe that you've never seen TJ without his shirt off. I think that's playing more into this whole, like, oh, TJ's taking the Christianity route and following his faith, and we're not doing any of that. But, I will say, shout out to TJ. He finally gave a nice compliment to Stacey when they were on the Sprinter van. He said she looked cute. So that was nice. He did call Mia's breasts pecs. So I'm not sure what that cattiness was all about. But, I've said this before. I have my thoughts around TJ, and I think Stacey has her thoughts on TJ. So that's why I find the whole thing a little bit inauthentic. But it's not that I don't like Stacey. I think she's good for the show. I think I just need her to be a little bit more real about her life. And maybe right now she can't, and this was the best way in. I don't know, but it sounds like there's two people that really just want to be on TV. But nonetheless, the episode was, it was okay. Listen, I'm not going to lie. This isn't my favorite season of Potomac. And we had about 2 weeks of no new episodes of pretty much any show on Bravo. So the fact that we did have a new episode of Southern Charm and then Potomac, look, it's quenching the thirst. And, tomorrow we obviously have a new episode of Real Housewives of Beverly Hills and Roni, although I'm not covering Roni. I was, but then I got real turned off with the overproduced situation that was going on there. And so I have taken a break from it, but I am getting a lot of messages from people asking me to still recap it. So I'm thinking about possibly catching up and recapping it for you guys, because especially yesterday, I was getting a lot of call outs in my DMs, like, where are your, Roni recaps. So I get it. It's just, it was really taxing to watch something be so fake. Anyways, but I will get on top of that for you guys. So I think, we also have some new shows that are going to be coming. I do think we're going to be getting a trailer for The Real Housewives of Atlanta in the next week or two, because word on the street is the new season is supposed to start March 2nd, allegedly. Saw that on Dorinda Deadly. Shout out to Dorinda Deadly. But yeah, so we should be getting some new shows. Also, The Valley will be coming soon. So we have more shows. So I'm excited. I think, Potomac will be ending here shortly. So hopefully they figure stuff out over there so that when we get to season 10, there's some good content for us to digest. Okay, let's see here. Let's go through. I just want to say to a couple people in the chat before we move on. Hello, April. And of course, Jeff C. Doodles in the house. Jeffrey, hi, Snow Bunnies. Hello, my little Snow Bunny. Lori, hello. And yes, we did already say hello to Danny, but we're going to say hello to you again. Listen, I know the title. Listen, I can't wait to break down some different angles because I have some questions. I've been digesting a lot of content over the weekend regarding the Blake Lively and Justin Baldoni. And yes, I am listening to both sides. And I'm going to discuss, I'm actually going to show you two people's angles. They're both on opposite sides, kind of. And I'm going to weigh in because I kind of feel like there's some double standards here when we're discussing believe all women or when we say believe all victims at face value. That might be fine and well. Then, well, anyways, I won't get into it just yet because we'll get through that part of it. But in the meantime, guys, if you are in the chat, if you are watching, please hit the like button.
Come on, everyone. Hit that like button.
That's right. Please hit that like button. It does help the channel. And also, if you're not subscribed, please subscribe to the channel. Hit the notification bell. I do go live Monday through Friday at 4 p.m. Eastern Standard Time. So, yeah, don't leave me hanging. Come join me here. And you obviously can listen to the replay, watch the replay afterwards. But it's more fun when you're live in the chat and we're interacting. And yeah, so without further ado, let's go ahead and jump into this whole Blake Lively, Justin Baldoni situation. And then mainly what I want to discuss is, is there a double standard? Am I looking at something, wrong here? I don't really think so because I've kind of looked at it from multiple angles. And I guess where I want to start is, well, first, let's start with a couple things that a lot of people were talking about over the weekend when it came to specifically when Blake was talking about in her complaints about being excluded from things, or even when we get down to the sexual harassment claim and saying the certain things about how she was being walked in on and made her uncomfortable, or talks of Justin's alleged porn addiction and then getting the video shown. Obviously, like, there was a lot of context that was added when Justin put out his lawsuit towards the New York Times. But then when you look back, when you look at it from the angle of like, okay, well, fine, if she was excluded, well, number one, she was just brought on as the actress, so I'm not really sure how it got lost on her that she would only come in to play the role of Lily and that's it. But instead it seemed like she was getting more and more involved in the making of the movie, so much so that there's multiple clips where it's clear she had a say in at least the scenes that she was doing, so much so that it seemed that it looks, I'll let you guys judge because we're going to watch some of these, but it looks like he is very much open to whatever the feedback is or whatever her, whatever she's trying to point out or add to the scene in question, right? So let's quickly go through some of these, and then we're going to look at the third one. And the third one's more in regards to a question that I have, but we're going to watch that first, and then we'll come back. So let's get into it. So, as you see, these are what clearly are clips from when they were filming the movie, which it's been over a year at this point. Nonetheless, that last clip that we just watched was what I think it shows that Blake is giving direction clearly on a scene that involves some sort of intimate choreography, if you want to call it that. And, clearly you see him absorbing the information, then you see them go back into the scene and he does it, and then they have this kiss. And there's even a lot of people that I'm seeing. Now, obviously, this is not verified, but there's a theory that I guess is fun to look at because based on what the lawyer on Justin's side has said about how they want to release all the text messages between Blake and Justin, there's this theory now where like, oh, well, maybe there was some sort of like something going on there. Maybe Blake allegedly perhaps had caught feelings or whatever, because when you watch them on screen, their chemistry is undeniable. Okay. Like, I'm not going to lie. There's good chemistry between the two. So if they were not getting along, they did a really good job of hiding that for their scenes together and for the storyline. But nonetheless, the thing about it for me around that is when you talk about someone like Blake Lively, right, where she grew up with parents who were already in Hollywood. She clearly had a little bit of a leg up, I'll say, in the industry, and I believe her siblings are also in the industry. So it's hard for me to digest that it's just she's a victim when we've seen that there's some gaps based on what she's put out versus what he's trying to fill in, because it's clear he was answering a lot of those complaints with the context that was left out on her side. But, the interesting conversation too, and I see a lot of people in the comment section who are really, they're really dead set on making sure that they are blindly going to believe her. And that, listen, I get it. Like, if anyone out there is either a survivor or they've dealt with sexual harassment or any type of harassment or any of those things, yes, no one should deal with that, and anyone who goes through that should be heard. It should be investigated, and they're like, you should listen. But then when things get presented, people should be able to look at evidence that's presented and actually have questions if things don't add up, or maybe why was this missing from this complaint, and why is your side transcribed, his side or screenshots literally. And it's interesting. So yes, there's a lot of people that are swaying a little bit on it, and it's not about taking sides, because listen, again, there's crap that's happened on both sides. I don't think something just happens with one person alone. I think there's a combination. It's clear that there is a storm that was brewing, and this is where we're at. But with the complaints specifically, it's confusing to me when I see that she's clearly involved, and then you read on his side that not only was she involved, she did her own styling. She, blew the budget on that. Not only did she do that after all the work that was done with the actual person that was hired to do the clothing for the movie, because she was like, I'm going to do my own thing. And that's a whole other rabbit hole of like decisions, like, where did you come up with these looks? But aside from that, he was having them deliver the clothes to her penthouse rather than just, I don't know. It just seems like a lot of things were being asked of Justin and team, and they were trying to oblige her, I think, because of the, let's just say, the greater good of getting the movie done and making sure that excuse me, that the message was out, even though through the press there was no real understanding of what the movie was actually about until people started talking about it. But when you look at it from the angle of, I saw a TikTok where someone was pointing out that there was a video, and in the video, and I thought I had it up here to show you guys, I don't, but I'll explain it. So she's team Blake Lively, And her point in the video was, here's the video they don't want you to see about Blake. Here's the video they don't want you to see. So this is like the smoking gun video that they're hiding from us, that we're not seeing. And then so she plays it, and it's Blake Lively, and she's, I think it's Good Morning America, and she's sitting up at the desk, and they're discussing, you know, her talking about Weinstein and what her thoughts are, and her message was, which the issue wasn't her message, but the message that she said was, everyone should be able to be heard, and everyone should like be taken seriously. Because then she points out that she also has had some times where she's had to speak up on set, and so she brings up this whole conversation around this question on basically dodging the Weinstein thing by just coming out and saying, well, basically, yes, you know, that's devastating news to hear. Uh, that was that wasn't my experience, but I think everyone should be heard. I think everyone should absolutely be heard. Their stories are, you know, everyone has a right to get their story out there, and people should believe what they're saying if that's what happened. And so it's interesting that was the video that they don't want us to see, because for some reason that's somehow going to change or shift things. Because I guess her point is, she's pointing out that Blake has stood for anyone who's a victim. And so therefore we should believe someone who stands for that. And I agree. I think anybody who stands for that, who comes out and has any of that, and I'm not saying that none of those things happened to her, but based on the way things are laid out currently, I'm having trouble really believing it the way that the Blake Lively side of the fence is throwing it down. I am, and I'm going to be honest about that, because the fact of the matter is, there's a lot of context that's missing. There was a lot of things, and if I'm going to be honest here, and this is where I'm going with this ultimately, is when we talk about believing all women, or believing all victims, or believing everyone that comes forward, and blindly believe whatever it is that they throw down. And even when there's additional information presented that would garner more questions, we're going to ignore that and just blindly keep saying, no, I believe, it doesn't matter what they say or show, I'm going to believe what this person initially said at face value because of XYZ. And then they list out all the things that they stand for. Boss woman, boss girl. And listen, that's great. But I have some questions. So if that's the case, then why? Okay, fine. Let's start with Weinstein. Because again, if she was disgusted to hear that those things were happening, right? Even though that wasn't her experience, if that was something that disgusted her, why then is she still working with Leslie Sloane, who has, her company was backed by Weinstein? Right. But you represent Blake, who says that those things were horrific. Yes. She didn't say they were great. I'm not saying that. Yeah, of course. But why are you employing someone whose company essentially is backed by dirty money? Right? Am I crazy? Like, that's a little off. Like, I would have a problem with that. If I was someone who was having that message of, no, like, survivors first, you believe everyone, believe the victim, right? And then you hear what Weinstein gets accused of, and then eventually charged, and now he's off paying the consequences of that. You keep someone on your payroll that their business is funded with the very money that was built on torturing victims? That's weird. Isn't that weird? I think it's weird. So that doesn't really make sense to me. Specifically also because Leslie, who's also involved in this, she never spoke out against Weinstein during that whole thing. Not a peep. So the fact that you're sitting over here now trying to claim that there's a smear campaign, do all this stuff, it's like, I don't really trust someone who is being selective here. And again, I'm looking at Blake too. It's a bit selective to surround yourself with people that have any sort of affiliation with a monster like Weinstein. At least that's my opinion. So I don't know. That's mind-boggling to me. Then, not only that, I've already brought this up, but I want to be clear is we also see that we have Colleen who has come out in support of Blake, which is odd for a multitude of reasons. But the main ones are, from my understanding and research, Justin and Colleen had a relationship, I believe, that started back in 2018 or 2019. He showed interest in the novels. It ends with us, and I think the second one. And so he built that relationship with her organically. So it's interesting that she's shifted over and is, she's going to side with Blake on this. And I personally believe it's because, you don't want to burn the wrong bridges. And I think because this is Colleen's big, whatever this is at this point, she's obviously not going to do anything that's going to harm her future, potentially, if anyone wants to make any of her other books into movies, So but what's interesting is that that's a bit hypocritical because, it's okay to possibly not be completely aware of everything and picking a side, or maybe she was, I don't know. But then you have this situation where, and this, I did finally find the tweet from the alleged victim of Colleen's son, Levi. Okay? You guys can read that. This is from the actual person. And the thing about it is, this was back in 2022. Okay? The girl was 16, allegedly, at the time. And Levi, who's Colleen's son, was 21 at the time, allegedly. They were having some sort of friendship on Snapchat. They were having, I guess, they got to a point where he was asking inappropriate things of her, like allegedly asking for a photo of her, and it made her uncomfortable. And it seems like instead of Colleen, really kind of holding her son accountable, because that's kind of really disgusting if that is in fact what happened, she dealt with it privately. Okay? She only talked about it in a private Facebook group where she kind of explained her side of it and basically said, look, I spoke to my son privately about it and held him accountable. It was not right what he did, essentially. Like, basically, like, slap on the wrist. Guys, but that's not the vibes ever. So I'm not sure what maybe should have happened in that situation, but it's just weird that this is what's connected. And then we go from that to then, let's not forget, okay, that the Cafe Society movie was done by Woody Allen, and Blake was also getting a lot of flack for being in that movie because of all the allegations against him from Dylan Farrow, okay? And obviously nothing has been proven, right? So it's just interesting that this is the movie that this Norwegian reporter ended up having this god-awful experience with her. So it's just very interesting that her I won't say it's an excuse, but her justification on this working with Woody Allen was that she believes in due process. So meaning it did go through whatever process it needed to go through, and nothing came out that officially that's exactly what happened. So the issue there for me is that, well, then if that's the case, then are you saying that Dylan made the entire thing up? Is she still lying about it? Is there anything are we only going to believe the ones that when it's in favor of our agendas, or is this really a blanket statement for all victims? Because if I'm connecting these dots the way that I'm seeing them, seems like a lot of hypocrisy. which is not helping the case in me wanting to believe, because then, it feels like there's a lot of manipulation going on here. And that is, I don't know. I mean, the fact that you have someone on your payroll to this day who's never spoken against or out about the very man who funneled money into building her company that she's utilizing to represent you. You're paying her, okay? You have this one who's, going to do whatever she needs to do to sweep whatever her weirdo son did on Snapchat so it doesn't ruin his future. Gotta love a mother's love, right? But then, whatever Justin put forward is still all lies. I don't think so. I'm not saying everything that she put out is all lies. Listen, I'm a firm believer the truth is in the middle. All I'm saying is some of these things are not adding up when you're looking at it from that lens. At least for me. It seems a bit hypocritical, if we're being honest. And a double standard where it's let's believe victims, let's believe the people that are coming forward with these stories if it fits our agenda or it's in line with what our future goals may be. But if it's not and it's getting in the way, then I don't know, that wasn't my experience, or I don't know, like, it's crazy, like, it's just a bunch of like BS. And I think that's maybe what the point of this whole thing will be in the end, is pointing out just how much smoke and mirrors goes into building up a celebrity, actor, whatever have you. Because if his lawyer is going to release all these text messages, there's a reason why he specified he wants to release all of the text messages between Blake and Justin, because there's clearly more to the story and we're just getting started. But I thought these were some points that needed to be brought up. I think these are some connections that, they don't look good sitting where she's at if this is all the things that she's trying to say, considering that we've seen so many different behind the scenes footage. And here's the other thing, and I'll end with this before we get into my thoughts on the Jen Aiden of it all. But I will say that, although I'm sure there's a lot of things that take place on movie sets that we're never going to understand, and even if you've worked on set, we weren't on that set, we're never really going to know, and that is just the reality of it. But I think what's interesting is what will happen as this continues to unfold, because as of right now, I saw a blind item. Again, you got to take those with a grain of salt, but the blind item essentially said that, this A- actress who recently just put out a lawsuit is basically not wanted by any movie project or studio currently. Now, do I believe that? No. And, for all as we know, she's behind that, allegedly. I'm just, saying, like, it, to me, I don't see the smear campaign of it all. I don't see how someone who has this much privilege growing up in a family that's connected to Hollywood and in the industry, enough for her to have enough resources to not have to deal with the Weinsteins of the industry, thankfully, and be able to go on and do movies with a Woody Allen, even though he's been accused of some disgusting things, even though they're not proven. Again, believe all victims, right? I'm just saying. It seems like we're aligning with a bunch of people that are just BSing and pretending to be girl boss, but only when it's in favor of their agendas. Again, that's all I'm going to say on that. But we do have to get into what I like to call the segment I react. Because Jen Aiden, what are you doing? What are you doing? Because to me, it seems like you want to show us your whole ass. Anyways, let's get into reality check.
Georgio Says it's time for Georgio's reality check. We need to talk about this. Oh dear, oh dear, oh dear, oh dear, oh dear, oh dear. Georgio's reality check.
I told you guys quickly, maybe last week in one of my episodes when it happened, but Jen Aiden was at an airport. She went to Jersey Mike's to get subs or a sub, and then started to complain that she got horrible service and that they were being slow and ridiculous towards her because she wanted to add a sandwich, but the line was long and everyone behind her was being like annoyed with her. And so she filmed people in line and tried to like call people out. And now it's gotten into this whole mess where now the elderly woman that she was berating and chastising for being too slow cutting the bread, now's a GoFundMe. The daughter has come out. It's war, okay? It's war. Not only that, you guys, not only is Jen Aiden proving to be the most disgusting, vile human being that could ever be out here, she's come to find out she ordered a tuna fish sub at 7 a.m. At 7 a.m. Tuna fish at 7 a.m.? What kind of monster? Okay. Meanwhile, it's like, hold on a second. This is Jersey Mike's we're talking about. You're in an airport. You're berating people and making fun of them. You're trying to film people that don't want to be on camera. You're throwing in everyone's face that you're famous, that you're married to a doctor, that you have real diamonds, and that you are a celebrity. Like any of that's supposed to matter at the Jersey Mike's inside of the airport? I think it's disgusting. I'm telling you, I hope we don't get her back next season. I hope that really shows the powers that be that is not the direction we want to go in for the next season of New Jersey. So please, if you guys want to put her on a different show where maybe she has to go like figure out why she's such a nasty, miserable person, that she treats people the way that she does, sure, but I don't think she belongs on Housewives. That's not the type of Housewives I think we want to see. And if it is, then maybe you should question what's going on with your life. Anyways, I don't know, but that's all I've got for you guys on this Monday. I hope you guys stay safe, stay warm. If it's snowing where you are, be careful if you're going out and shoveling and doing all that stuff. And I will definitely be talking to you guys tomorrow. So until the next one, guys, have a good one. Bye.
We need to talk about this. Every rumor, every twist on the Georgio Says podcast. We need to talk about. So hit that play, stay in the know. Georgio's here to steal the show. On the Georgio Says podcast, we need to talk about this.